Hello, it's yet another opportunity on The Bridge Show, a talk show that dwells on North Central perspective to issues that affect us as Nigerians, our daily realities, our daily lives, and how these impact on the generality in the North Central. We feel that as women, we are voices. We are the voice of the North Central. And in our little corner, we're doing just what we can to change society, to educate, and to inform and enlighten as well. That's what the show is all about. So, welcome to another edition of the program. Today, we're marking International Women's Day. Obviously, so, because we're women. And everything that has been happening to us are things that we also want to see change in. So, the set is not different from what it always will be. On the set today, we have very informed women, classy ladies, beautiful ladies, who will be taking us through the celebration of International Women's Day. On the set is Dorothy Abeliga. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a woman, first of all. That is most important. And I'm happy to be here. I'm a journalist, a mother, a Nigerian from North Central.
And we also have Arima Oko. Tell us a little bit about you. Say hello first, though.
Welcome to the Bridge Show. I hope you enjoy this program today.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's let our audience get to know you, our viewers get to know you.
My name is Erima Oko. I'm a lawyer first and foremost, a mother, and also an activist, a philanthropist interested in women and children issues, particularly as it concerns women in the North Central, where I come from.
Thank you very much. So, my name is Onwani Ulegede. We're all hosts on this show, but I'm holding the reins today. I am first and foremost a broadcaster, and I'm a media personality and administrator. I work with one of the electronic media in the city of Makudi. And I'm interested in so many things. I'm also a lawyer and the executive director of Roots Media Initiative. I'm also the chair Association of Nigerian Authors, Anna Benue chapter, the current chair. And I like to call myself the chair, not chairman. So,
Not chairwoman.
yeah, chairwoman actually, but they say it's not the law. So
The gender language is chairperson.
no, it's not the gender language. The gender language is chairwoman, but that's not what we're doing now. So, chairperson is generic, is gender. How do you call it? No, is neutral. Is gender neutral.
Okay.
So yeah. So we do so many things. But this is one show that has our heart because we're speaking from our little corners, like we said earlier. So today we're marking the International Women's Day, which happens every March 8th. Depending on when you tune to this channel and watch this show, just know that this is what we're celebrating. So we're not doing this with cymbals and drums, but we want to mark it by way of, taking stock of how there have been series of interventions. I'll do a little bit of introduction to this fact, but then we're looking at, we're taking stock on how interventions on women's rights generally have helped our situation, our course as women. because we've come a long way. We're talking about a movement between 1909 and 1914, when women were asking for their voting rights, when women were also asking for shorter hours of work and asking for higher pay, or rather equal pay. And this rights this rights movements, went from one continent to another. We're looking at our position in this whole system as Nigerians and women in the North Central, and as a matter of fact, women in Benue, because we have specific issues or problems that we deal with as humans, as women. So that's where we're coming from today. And why not so? Because we're women. We're women. So we're interested in how these things affect us as human beings. And we're concerned about how much progress we're making, and if there's hope of a better tomorrow, or if we shouldn't worry about anything. We'll hear that all in this discourse. But that is what this show is all about. So welcome to the Bridge Show. Let's start by looking at what the issues are. Do we have any, as not central people, do we really have any problems to worry about? Because you know what? I'm asking this question because today, I think in our discussion earlier, Dorothy mentioned that the people in other parts of the world, the women in other parts of the world, or in developed parts of the world, are even helping us by jumping on the bandwagon to pursue these rights of women. But I don't know if how true that is, because I know that, but I do know that every society has peculiar issues. And even when you see advancement in development, you'll be surprised to know that those advancements in development also have created their own contradictions, which would now also birth new fever for rights, which will also call for other rights, or other movements that will solve the issues that they come up with. So, but then in Nigeria, what are our specific issues? And I'm telling you, and I'm asking you this so that let's also have at the back of our minds that how it is in this North Central area or North Central Nigeria may not be the peculiar issues of women in the Southwest. Our issues, maybe the women in the Southwest are more liberated than women in the North. Maybe women in the North are more liberated in certain ways than women in the Southeast. So, but then as it relates to North Central, what are our issues?
I would say this agitations, the realization that women deserve recognition started way back in the 1900s. That is to say, it was even in the so-called developed countries, the women were relegated to the background. So as time went on, they discovered that Africa were even in the darkest ages, because they had the opportunity, they had lights then, they had ways of generating electricity, they had ways of generating power, they had functional sewage systems, when we were doing open defecation and doing it in the bushes and things like that. So it will be right to say, you'll be right in saying that development came to Nigeria, to Africa, way after the Western women realized everything and realized that women needed their rights. And to say, coming down to Africa, then West Africa, then Nigeria, then North Central, it's a real struggle. It's something that has been going on, something that needs attention. Because even as we're speaking now, there are some things that are happening in North Central to the women that the Western woman will find it very surprising at this age, because they started this agitation decades ago. And that there are some things like early marriages and things like that happening, especially in North Central, that they will find very alien. They will be surprised to find out that things like that are still happening in the world that we live in today.
So, like, I'll also add and there are peculiar problems that face the North Central women, particularly as it concerns sexual violence against women, child marriages, discrimination in the workplace, gender disparity, in the workplace, health issues, access to health, education, female genital mutilation, which is still ongoing in some parts of the
Exactly.
North Central, even as I'm speaking. So there are myriads of problems facing women, particularly in the North Central. And I pray that this program is going to highlight some of these problems, that are facing the women in the North Central.
Okay, so thank you very much for those responses. But I think we need to go dig deep into what the issues actually are in the North Central. Now, what do we see? Because people are getting educated. Look at us, we're enlightened, right? So, looking at the kind of our setup, our ability to communicate the problems of our society, you may think that every woman in the North Central is that what you say? Are we okay? Are we good? You mentioned education. You mentioned social issues like female genital mutilation, sexual reproductive health rights, and all that. Not so. What are they really? What are these issues? We need to look at them
Yeah,
critically.
because
We need to expand them, open
earlier
them up.
than now, I would give credit to our parents now. They realize that every child, regardless of sex, has a right to education. But I would in those days, like when the fight started in the 1900s, I would say even us in North Central, it was even much earlier in the day than that. That the spending money on educating a girl child, they would term it as a waste, because some of them would say they had a very annoying saying that they say every woman's education ends in the kitchen.
Hmm.
But these days, we have risen above that. Thank God to our parents that remember that to educate a woman is to educate a nation. Because at the end of the day, we are the people that stay home with the children, and we help them with their homeworks, we help them with morality, we help them with other educational things. Half the time the husband is not there, and the mothers are the ones that stay. That is why it is very important to educate even the girl child, because they to educate the woman, the girl child eventually transforms into a woman, because she is the one that is at home. She's the custodian of the house. She knows how to treat the children, especially the primary health care, how to keep a child warm, what food is hygienic for the child. And sometimes these forms of enlightenment, they come through the media, maybe through the televisions and the radios. And if she's there and she's listening, and maybe they say, okay, what are the primary things you have to do to a child who maybe has diarrhea, they know what to do. They say you measure a certain percentage of salt, a certain percentage of water, and then you know what to do for your child. If she doesn't have a little bit of education, maybe they are saying those things she will not understand. So I say that I must give credit, because North Central, I will always say, geographically, we are in a place where development takes kilometers to get to, whether by air or by sea or whatever way. But we are thankful to the media, because everyone has access to the
Mm.
media,
Mhm.
and whatever things they are educational, they are able to read or to watch or to listen.
Also, I want to focus on the power imbalance between the genders, that is, between the male
Wonderful.
and the females, that is, between men and women, which should not be. there should be an equality of power relation between both the men and the women. Also, the equality in both private and public sectors as it concerns violations of women.
Okay, so when you say power relations, please kindly elaborate on that.
For example, job opportunities,
Okay.
educational opportunities should be equal where both sexes are concerned. For example, where there are sexual violations against women in public spaces, there should be no distinction where there is a sexual violation in a private institution as well, or private workplace.
I agree with you totally, Rima, but I would say the things have improved now. Because you see women being trained as engineers, whereas in those days they were these jobs they say they were strictly for men. You will see, I know of a woman car fabricator. She fabricates car bumpers, and there are lots of them that when I go out there, I am I am I am above 50, and I met a lifetime when women, they were not bothered to be educated, and they were not bothered to have these engineering jobs. You find women
So
doctors.
in other words, you're
You
saying
find
there's a measure of equality
there's a
where
level at
careers
least.
are
Yeah, I
involved.
would say it is not what we should expect. The percentage is not there, but at least it's better. It's just like when we were talking when years ago they were talking about affirmative action. Now, when we are talking, we will remember that in the Fourth Republic, a lot of improvement has been there. When women used to come out as politicians, they were labeled. They will be called all kinds of names. They will say she's
To the prostitutes.
a prostitute. They should be called names. They will say the party chairman is dating the woman and things like that. And the woman and the issue of finance too. We were having a lot of problems because coming out as a politician, you need something.
So
You know
it looks
something.
like we have the glory days here. I don't know the way you're talking about these issues. I mean, I'm not really seeing problems in them. Are we saying that women no longer have problems
They
in
do.
I have
finance?
Women
Are we
do,
saying that
but
women are now there's an equal opportunity in politics?
There is none.
there is none.
There
I'm
is,
saying that,
but it's
but
not
the
at
level
par with
now
what
is not. It's
some.
not.
Okay, so
Especially,
what? Okay, can I say something?
we're avoiding Beijing, but I would say
You seem to be saying that the good days are already here from what you're saying. But if I look deeply, or if I think, if allow me to think, deeply about what transpired in the past or in recently concluded elections, I was saying that okay, it was said that 1,558 women came out to contest for elected positions, but only about 78 women emerged.
that is
What could that
encouraging,
be?
because in the past days, nobody would have come out at all. In the past days, they were not even allowed.
I find it very strange that you're saying
You're
this.
saying that.
No, I'm not
Yes.
saying it's a complete. I'm not
It's not a
saying that.
complete picture of
I'm
what
not
is
saying it's a
presently
complete
happening.
picture of what is happening.
Okay.
But I am saying that 50 years ago, it was not like this.
But it's not 50 years
It's
ago.
not. We're not talking
We are
50
talking
years
of
ago.
the
We're talking
present
about
time.
today.
Yes.
Yes.
We're talking
We're
about
talking about
we're
today.
talking about the movements in other societies and how we can deploy.
That is the imbalance
How
is
we
so
can-
much. The
The
percentage
imbalance is much.
out of a
But-
1,000 and what you said.
558.
And
Now
what
at
is
least
79?
you women are agreeing with me that the realization is there, the information is there, the sensitization is there, the advocacy
okay,
is
so
there.
there's this
In
other-
those days, there was nothing like
There's
that.
this other issue.
So there is room for improvement.
I agree.
Maybe our grandchildren or maybe our children will enjoy a different
I'm
scenario.
not very happy when we want to talk about things that we should be enjoying right now, and we're looking forward to when our grandchildren are going to.
We
Maybe
are
like
talking
But
about
10
it,
but it's
generations
the
down
Nigerian
the line.
syndrome. They keep telling us that we're leaders of tomorrow, and now we have gone grey. And we have not, So we have to be hopeful.
Well, okay. So how about this element of tokenism? Okay, now we're looking at it from the political angle, isn't it? We're looking at it from decision-making opportunities
Yeah.
available to women, education, decision-making
Positions and of
opportunities, right? So there's this talk about, okay, you know what, 35 affirmative action. Let us give them. Let's try 20. But then there's this other thing that I want us to also examine. The women who emerge, not all the time, but usually, if you look at it, I'm not even talking about in the North Central, just a random example, just if you allow that. So there are places where you find this very educated woman, very civilized, having, everything that it takes to be in a leadership experience and everything, right? And then another lady who probably had been doing very well on the home front for her husband and gets rewarded in a political office. Does that there's something that doesn't add up. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I remember that some women in the southwest recently said, you know what, don't talk about giving just any woman this position. Talk about giving women who you
No
know
merit.
can, I mean, yes, who merits this position. So how about that? Do we have anything like that in the North Central for us to now use as an example in showing, or are we good as far as the women who should be, who merit these positions being in positions? That's what to look at. This is looking at it
I would, I
generally.
would, I would, I would like to quote um one Nigerian. I'm sorry, she's late now. There is this Nigerian woman. She was a traditional ruler. So we went as women journalists one day to ask her, we say, how are you feeling in an environment like this? You're a traditional chief, and usually the chiefs are men and all that. Do you go for their congress meetings and things? She said yes. And that she made a point in her life that she has gone past the age of dancing and clapping for men,
Mm-hmm.
and that she feels that women too
Can
should
vibe.
dance and clap for themselves. I think when we realize that, it's not that we hate ourselves, but women get easily bored. That maybe that's what I should say.
You cannot say that.
Bored
Because
with what?
sometimes
I beg to
well,
disagree with you
But
respectfully.
let her
yes,
learn, because bored with what?
because sometimes they get bored with themselves. You
With
understand?
themselves.
Women like, I think some women like to praise men. You understand?
I don't get it.
You see,
You don't get it,
you see,
but
let me
Okay,
let
you
me
don't
okay,
get
jump
it.
let
in.
But the
her learn.
scenario here,
Paint it.
there's a scenario. Okay, politicians. I remember one time a Nigerian woman came out as a presidential candidate. At the end of the day, she had one vote. And I can bet you when it comes to politics, women really go out there to vote. But how come she got one vote?
She probably
Was it
didn't do.
because she was very popular?
She voted for
She
herself.
voted for herself. But where were the other women? If you not say, because
So let me
we
just
get really I would say we
So
sometimes
that,
we just get disinterested with ourselves.
because we probably don't have that financial muscle. We'll be looking at the issue of finance
wait.
Yeah,
and
they
Let me let
political.
me let me say
But
something
yeah,
here.
come in.
Why women lack participation in politics in Nigeria. There are so many indices against their participation, so many frustrations against them. There are so many problems against women participation in politics, particularly. The first one is finances, like you said. They don't have the financial clout to join politics, which discourages them from joining politics. It is not about a women against women issue per se. You understand? Then, secondly, because of that financial inequality, the men tend, to play on that. and sponsor the men more than the women. Like what happened in one election where a woman emerged as a governorship candidate or so.
Okay, yes, Binani.
What happened there? So such problems, discourages women,
Adamawa.
Yes,
Infantry.
discourages women from joining politics. Then the socio-cultural indices against women in politics is another thing. For example, if a woman for example, takes the courage to join politics in the North Central, they'll start calling you Ashawu. I'm aware of that.
Not century.
They'll
Yeah,
start saying
Because
right,
of
in the North
also
Central only.
religion.
Yeah,
that she's
okay.
following all these
Religious
politicians to
intersection.
gain money from them. Meanwhile, she's on a serious business to see how she can emancipate her fellow women, especially women and girls. So that is one part. Secondly,
But let me ask you, sorry, not to
Yeah.
cut you, hold that thought. So if a woman, there are certain things we also must look at. How should a woman, conduct herself when she finds herself in those arenas of politics? Because there's a way certain women probably conduct themselves. I'm not there. So
I'm not there, so I cannot say.
Okay, so
but
that's
I am
also a
just
factor that
speaking generally.
that we have
there
to
are
look
some-
at.
But
there
I'm
are
just
some
saying the
also-
problems that I perceived
When a
in
woman
women's participation in politics, particularly, that I already identified. Also, for example, maybe
No, I am saying that should a woman be judged because there are certain ways men also carry themselves. There's this thing about a woman. I mean, a woman does not flirt all by herself in the,
and women
in the
do
first
not
place.
kill for positions.
Well, but then when you say they call, I'm just riding on what you said, that they call women prostitutes just because they want to vie for positions. But then who provides the enabling environment for that, even if that is the situation?
It is the men, of course.
So go ahead.
It is the men that perpetuate these
Go ahead.
fallacies
Okay.
against women in politics, so as to discourage. Because Nigerian men, particularly, let me just say generally, Nigerian men believe a woman's place is in their home.
Yeah.
Then for you to go to the opposite end and say you
say
want to
you're
participate in politics, you'll say, she wants her husband to divorce her or something like that. She wants to flirt. She wants to
That
start
reminds
flirting with
me-
all these big politicians,
It
which
reminds me
might not be the case, or which is not the case.
We went for
Then
we went
also to discourage women, though, when there's an agenda or a meeting or a convention or a crucial meeting within the party hierarchy, caucus, they'll place, they'll set the meetings 12 midnight,
After
1
a.m.,
3 a.m.
2 p.m. So how can you, as a married woman, attend such meetings? They might even send it a day before they will even inform the other members. Meanwhile, maybe the men are already aware that such a meeting is going to take place.
Or put you in charge of the kitchen.
Yes.
So
Or
entertainment.
entertainment. They put you in charge of entertainment.
clapping.
So
and
these are
dancing
all problems,
and sharing water.
set against women joining, having a high percentage in the political sphere in Nigeria. That's the way I see it.
Okay. So allied to this problem of this issue of politics is the poverty status of the women.
Yeah,
in
finances. Financial constraints.
We talked about, we mentioned financial constraints, but what is the actual situation of the woman in the North Central? Like a data I gathered said that you have 2.4% of women. So women constitute 49.95%, something like that, in the population of Nigeria, right? As opposed to
Tentatively.
men. Well, I don't know about
Tentatively.
I don't know about tentatively. But then out of this, I have a data here. Let me read it. It says the report indicated that, or rather, 2019 National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) Poverty Inequality Report had indicated that only 25.37% of women are involved in income generating activities, while 74.63% were not. That is a significant number. That is outrageous. That means you and I are engaged in one form
that
of
small percentage.
yes, this percentage of 25 points. So what is happening to all of so how can all of this, who are this 74.63%? They're the women who are clapping hands, who are dancing,
Yes,
who are
and
cooking,
sharing water,
who
who are cooking.
sharing water, as you say.
In politics now, the highest office they give women is the woman leader, and she's the one that shares
politics apart,
things.
poverty is another hellhole where women are concerned in the North Central. Because you have discrimination against women concerning their earning power. Some men will want their wives to be full-time housewives,
yes,
and not go out there into the job market to provide for their families. Take into consideration the economic hardships that we are facing now, but some men are so hardlined that they will not want a woman to go out there to earn for herself, because they believe if a woman earns for herself, she's going to come back home and challenge the man as to the authority of the man as to the headship of the family, which I don't believe is the real issue here. It is a cultural issue that is facing women as to their earning, or as to overcoming.
A woman shouldn't earn more than the man.
Yes. Where a woman earns more than the man, you will find problems emanating from that marriage. I am a lawyer. I do a lot of divorce cases. And most of the time, the issue there is finances. Where a woman earns more than the man brings a lot of issues to the foreground.
Yeah.
That's one aspect.
It even generates to violence. Because of an ego thing.
It deprives the women of that financial stability that they need to make their lives whole, and the lives of their children whole. And that's one aspect.
Yeah.
Also, education. Education is another millstone around the women in the North Central.
Millstone.
Yes, a millstone. Most men go to the village and marry a small girl from the village who is not educated.
It's an ego thing, I think.
Yes, and bring her to the city and does not want to enroll her maybe in adult education. And yet the girl is not satisfied, because those marriages are marriages of convenience. An older man, educated, goes to the village, marries a young girl whose parents are impoverished, and say, okay, the parents will give conditions. Okay, if my daughter marries you, what can you do for her? Okay, if I bring her to the city, I'll educate her. I'll let her do whatever she wants. Then when you bring her to the city, and then she starts giving birth. Then in the course of giving birth, she now realizes that she is suffering because the finances are not enough to take care of her needs. Then she reminds the man, what about the promises you made to my parents that you were going to put me in school? That is where the problem starts. You want to dictate to me what I should do in my own house? Problem don't start to. It don't start with that. Let me put it in the common man's language for us to understand. So when you oppress women educationally, because education is the emancipation it liberates people, because women are the backbone of the society. So if you don't educate girls or women, the society is going to retrogress backwards. It's going to retrogress. So education is another problem that is facing the emancipation and the inclusiveness of women today in the North Central.
So there's something that also I would want us to look at. You have women in the North Central. It appears, like you said, she used the word millstone. I really love that word. In my place, they call it akonklu. you tie it around the woman's neck and then she can't move.
Mm.
There's that thing about women aspiring to be better in business, in their career,
Yes, in all spheres of
in
life.
all their
That's
in
right.
all their spheres of endeavor.
Yeah.
But then, even in the workplace, some people are like, why are there so many women here? It's usually a problem. Oh no, there are so many women in this space. Let's
That's
inject.
another form of discrimination.
It's another problem because in the past, nobody used to remember that there was no woman in the mix and things went on normal, like there was no problem. As long as there was no woman in that mix, there was no problem. But now you have a lot of women. At some point, we had more women in in management in a certain office than men, and people were like, "Hello, what is going on?" I mean, it was like something is wrong. You need to inject. Of course, in the spirit of gender sensitivity, it's perfect to always have a balance, right?
Yes, but there is no balance.
But then why are
Yes.
we always, why do we have that aha moment, or why do we have that sensitivity when women are now the ones who are um
I
in
think
more in
some
number,
people feel
who are
threatened.
majority? Why is that?
They
And then another thing is, where you have I talked about aspiration, the woman of the North Central doesn't. If you go to maybe offices in Abuja, establishments like government offices, federal, parastatals, and ministries, I doubt very much if you have a good representation of Benue women in those offices as you have women from other places in Nigeria.
from the North Central.
You see, in women and women from the North Central.
Like I earlier said, education plays a very major role in careers, as it concerns careers, concerning women, or participation of women in career opportunities. So if the percentage of educated women are not many, how do you expect the women to be in the workplace, despite
But I would say
the
sometimes,
disparity
sometimes it also
in the
has
balance?
to do. It also has to do with the temperament of the women and the stereotypes in the society where we grow up. In the middle belt, religious religion also plays a lot in discouraging women. No, we're trying to
You
see
were saying that women in the North, religion, but the woman in the North is more empowered than the woman in the North Central. Because you find today the Muslim,
they are
the religious element you're
they are
talking
going
about does not
through
even play out
they
in
are
the North
going
as such. You
through
have you
they are
You have
going through
educated
you have very
Muslim.
educated
I
women, and they
know
are being placed
they
in
have
positions
they
of
have a
authority.
federation they have a federation of Muslim women, and they can tell you what they went through
I agree.
before they arrived at that position where they are. So do we have do we have federation of North Central women? Do we have those kind of
You have women's
coalitions?
societies.
We
That is
have a
the
National
National
Council
Council
of
of
Women's
Women's
Yeah,
Society,
you
is
have
Societies.
the
women's
federal
societies.
one. We have we
You
have
have
We
it.
have,
branch.
we have it at the
We
state level,
do,
even at the local
we
government
do, but
levels.
what has been happening?
Well,
I don't hate women for what?
no, so the idea is to have a balance and to look at the issues in the North Central. But when you talk about religion, we also have religion also playing out even
But
in
you
the North
see,
Central, where we even have.
those say the woman in the South, you cannot compare her level of exposure to. There are some things that there's a sort of camaraderie that goes on between them and even their parents that we don't dare. There are some things we will not tell our parents, but they sit with their parents like
Like
friends
what?
round the table. No,
We need to
like
hear it.
yeah, like maybe the first man in their life, for instance, or maybe the first kiss, or maybe the first.
It's not
I
that easy,
know.
even in
Listen,
very civilized
listen.
societies.
But let me tell you something. There are other climes where women sit and discuss health issues, first boyfriends, and first husbands. I tell you what, when I started
So how does that
menstruating,
help the
when
cause
I
of
started
advancing women's rights?
Yeah, because you have to be open. You understand? There are things, okay, like the sexual abuse. There are some people that will not open up.
Okay,
Parents.
okay.
We say, no, I don't want my child to be exposed to the police, or maybe on TV. Maybe when tomorrow now she wants to get married, somebody will make references to that.
Okay.
But there are some parts of the world where these things are open. And then there are also homes for people that have been sexually abused. If you don't have parents, so there are some that get pregnant in the process, and their parents throw them out.
Okay.
There are places where you can go. There are people that can counsel you. There are people that can. Some of the people, some of the girls believe that pregnancy outside marriage is the end of the world for them, because society abuses them. The parents sometimes, I know of a Christian family that the father is pastor. I don't want to mention names. When the child came home with pregnancy, the man said it is an embarrassment on his religion that him as a pastor should have a child that is pregnant outside marriage. So he threw the girl out. And in that kind of situation, what becomes of her?
Don't forget that what we're talking
So,
about was the
can we
financial
can we
situation.
talk about laws?
Yeah,
Financial.
well, before we talk about laws, let's look at the
Laws will come.
inheritance factors as they affect, I mean, as a factor of discrimination of women in within the North Central. Is there
And of course,
we
but I
have
would say,
such issues?
and they do it in the open. But I will tell you, in Tivland, the uncursive, the girl child is the sole custodian of the home, even from her husband's house. Because if someone dies, for instance, they will send letters to the girl children.
Is that
Then
fair?
they will send letters to the girl children that are married. And then the husbands will have it upon themselves. In fact, they share jobs. They say, you, this girl child, because you are the first one, your job is to dig grave for your father.
But I've heard some women from Tiv speaking area complaining about that they feel is an onerous task and that it's not fair.
No, but
What
we're not talking about the resultant consequences.
No,
That what
we're talking about part of it.
what we're saying is that the fact that girls are denied inheritance, but actually they participate in the upkeep of the home, and I see no
Okay.
reason why they should be denied such rights.
Okay,
Because
of that they cast on them.
even in from their husbands' houses, they
They
still
still
take
maintain
full
the
part.
family.
They still maintain the family, because they will send letters. They will make some that are not married. You feel as if you don't have anything important to offer to the family. But at the end of the day, when when the will is being read and being shared, even the married one and the unmarried alongside, they are put in the same area. You are not allowed to inherit anything.
So we're looking at the factor of inheritance, whether women are discriminated in terms of,
They are.
I mean, how women are
They are.
discriminated in terms of inheritance
They are.
and other rights. We also have that. We
are.
also have an element of discrimination in widowhood practices. We also have an element
Harmful
of
traditional
yes,
practices.
harmful traditional practices like
They,
basically
they tell
around us here.
yeah, they will either tell the woman to drink the husband's
That
bath
doesn't
water
happen
and things like
in my
that.
place.
No, but it happens
No,
in North Central.
okay.
Just to prove the woman's innocence, that if a woman dies, there is no issue. But if a
Actually,
man dies,
yeah, that
God
element
help
of
that
a
woman. They will
woman
say it's the woman that
that
kills
kills the
husband.
man. That there's always that factor. Who
Yes.
killed the man? I mean, they begin to inquire into who killed the man, because the man ordinarily should never die.
Yes, and then they will give the man in some parts, when the man is, they will keep the man somewhere, a secluded area where he should mourn his wife, and they will give him a woman.
Nobody
That
gives him a woman. He probably had a
the
girlfriend.
woman will chase away the spirit of the dead wife. You understand? What aches me is the issue where when a woman dies I remember one woman died at her wake. The husband's two girlfriends were competing at who will bring the biggest food. They brought food to her
To
wake,
console him.
and the husband was there with his friends, and they were eating away. But if it was the man that died, God help that woman. Some places they will shave her head. She will be subjected to wear white or black for a whole year. That is depending on where she comes
The,
from.
the culture that I
But
come from,
uh,
you will have to remove. I mean, you have no right to sit on a chair when
Yes.
you're mourning. When you're in mourning mood, you
Yes.
have to sit on the floor.
On the
As a matter,
floor.
I think they have advanced these days to the fact that you either spread a mat on the floor
Or
or
mattress.
a mattress. You have to go and
And,
drag your
yeah.
mattress from the bedroom just so that you can feel a bit more comfortable. I think that is totally
Yes.
unnecessary.
And the thing that also pains me is that it's women that are selected to go and mete out these punishments on their fellow women.
Even
They are
if,
the ones that go and shave the woman's head. They when they bath the corpse of the husband, they are the ones that bring the water to the woman to come and drink, and they reduce her to all kinds of embarrassing situations. What I've seen a man that
sometimes they
didn't
drop a
wear
cola,
anything.
they put a cola nut on the body and then give you to eat to prove
Yes,
that you didn't kill
those
him.
kind of things. I mean, someone going through mourning, and there are some families that will come and pack away the possessions of the man and the woman. They have been putting together resources to put these things together. But when the husband dies, the wife's people, I mean, when the husband dies, the brothers or relations will come and send the wife away and pack all their life possessions. And in some cases, the woman still has children to look after.
And then
We're
or
going
the
through quite a lot.
or the cultural assumption that a woman killed her husband.
That is
we
what
said
that is
it.
what happens.
Yeah.
That is what
Apart
happens
from
when
that,
when
there's
a
also
man
this
dies.
element of showing grief openly. If you do not show grief openly, particularly
That
in the
means
culture that I come from, that means you killed him.
you
You have
killed
you
the
have a
man.
hand in his death.
You are not
You
crying.
killed him.
Yeah. So you have to wail, like
Yes,
they have to see you wailing and tearing
tearing.
and rolling on the
On the
floor.
ground,
Or
You
you have
know.
to perform some cultural sacrifices, like sacrificing a goat, one or two or 10 goats.
That's if you didn't wail.
No, not because you didn't will. If they are suspecting you of having killed your husband, that you should
But
swear
what-
to
what-
this and
Yeah, you
perform
have to swear to all sorts.
some
you know-
cultural
you know-
activities. Or if, for example, you're separated from the man, you're not divorced from the man, but you're just separated, they will not allow you to perform some certain rites for the man, except you make some certain sacrifices.
And
Yeah.
it sometimes is very, very annoying, because you see women die without issue, and they're the ones that are mostly at the receiving end of everything. They are the ones that bear the children. They are the ones that do the housework. They are the ones that get beaten when the opportunity arises. But when she dies, there is no issue.
So
She
Then,
has no reason to die.
Then also concerning female genital mutilation. Well, in the past, it used to be the common practice. I don't know about now, but from the statistics and questions I've been able to ask, it seems it's dying down in
It
some
is.
places.
It is.
But it's still
more awareness creation is helping.
more awareness creation has helped, to bring down that problem. However, it's still ongoing in some others, maybe secretly. And women who also perpetuate this custom for the FMG, moved by the men, or instigation of the men.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
That's
is moved
right.
by
It
the
is.
instigation of the
It
men.
is.
I believe that every
Because
single
The men,
the
the men
reason
do
they
the
give-
circumcision,
men.
Yes.
No.
Oh,
It's the man that carries the
In
blade.
my place,
In
it's
my
the
place
woman.
is the women. The men say that if you don't circumcise the girl child, she's going to be promiscuous. she's going to be an
What
ashawo or a
about them?
prostitute.
What about them?
So
It doesn't matter.
What about them?
it is to
The
forestall.
men are highly promiscuous. There is no man in this life that, I always praise the women. It's not because I'm a woman. My father was a polygamist. He married 4 wives, and all those 4 wives were dedicated religiously to
To
that man.
him.
Sometimes I will sit and say, okay, these men, they say that women are promiscuous, but I can use my mother as an example. She had 3 other mates that were always sitting like meek dogs, waiting for my father. And then some they will say, we are circumcising women so that they will not be promiscuous. We are keeping women in kule. You understand?
Even up till
They
today.
now they lock the women in and say she shouldn't show her face in the daytime,
Yeah.
except in the evening. You are going out all covered up so that other men don't see you. But what about the men that are out there
So
all
those are
day?
all negative cultural
Yes.
practices that must be stamped
Oh.
out completely.
If you've been watching, we've been discussing or taking stock or discussing the issues of the problems of women in the North Central. They are inexhaustible. But then we believe that because this program is ongoing from time to time, we'll be bringing you snippets from even what we have said, focusing on them in other editions of Bridge Show. But then let's look at we're taking stock of the problems, right? Let's take stock of the interventions over the years. How have they? Where are we coming from? Where are we, and where are we headed? I know that we
Yeah,
had yes, okay,
I would say with the subsequent interventions, Beijing, Maputo, AU, UN, all these things, I would say politically we are making headway. And then in those forms of harmful traditional practices that like the female
genital
genital
mutilation.
mutilation is being put in check now. It's not very popular. Not like them when they used to make a ceremony of it. I know that the people that were involved had to be in a group. So you would have had about 20, 30 young girls in one place and going through all that emotional and physical pain. But I would say that over the years, we're seeing slight improvement in some areas because of advocacy and information about all these things. They are called harmful because some people were not very lucky to come out of that circumcision. Some died, excessive bleeding. Some had infections, and some became traumatic. You understand? That can also make, well, it's demoralizing, because when you come out, some people will not take it laughing like
People die.
some people die, but
People
and
die.
some will also feel it emotionally. They will feel there's something missing in them,
And it
so
affects you in a
it
way.
will affect them in some other way. So I would say that we're seeing we'll get there, because in the past it was darker than the age we are now, especially politically. I remember that when the Fourth Republic came in, we started having women commissioners. We started having women. There were some circumstances in the past where even the Ministry of Women Affairs was run by men. You will see a man and they will say he's a commissioner in the Women Affairs Ministry. But now they have women in such ministries, and they are having women. We even have Pauline Talent from the North Central. She was a minister. We had some women ministers. We had Mrs. Margaret Chen, our
And
mommy, that was
Elizabeth
once
Ibiase.
was a speaker in the Benue State House of Assembly. We have women doctors. We have women lawyers like the two of you sitting here. We have some positions that in those days were restricted to men. And most importantly, we have more women out there now. They we are not relegated to the kitchen, even though women cook. But funny enough, when money is to be made from cooking, the men put on long caps and come out and say they are chefs. But when they know that it's to feed the family, they leave the women to do it. I don't know why the men will not wear those caps and cook in the house for their children.
Well,
But well, now we are having
we
more
have some
enlightenment.
international
I
conventions and treaties that Nigeria has been privy to. We have like one of the treaties or convention is a convention against all forms of,
The Convention on the Elimination of
All
All
forms
Forms
of
of
discrimination
against
against
women.
women, the
CEDAW.
CW.
yes, then you have the Violence Against Persons
Person,
Prohibition
yes.
Act. Then you also have
The protocol to the African Charter, the
Yes.
Maputo Protocol
Yes, so those are some of
on
the
human and people's rights.
conventions that Nigeria has been privy to. It has also ratified some, but the problem is in the implementation.
Domestication.
Has
And
ratified almost all of them.
It's
All
in
of
the-
them.
And they're signatories to
They are
all of
signatories.
them.
They've ratified all of them.
So it has the problem is domestication of these
Yes.
treaties, which is it's finding very difficult,
Hmm.
particularly in the states, particularly in the North Central. You know. So what I'll encourage.
We're actually trying because let's not downplay
No.
the efforts that we've made.
The effort,
Okay.
Because we have the VAP law, which has been domesticated. It was an act at the federal level, but it's been domesticated in the state. And then even the incident of 16 days of activism is something that we take up very seriously. So I think we're not there yet, but we're moving. We're making progress. It's a slow progress.
NAPTIP, they have a safe haven. They have something they call a hostel, so that when abused young girls,
Sexual and gender based.
sexual and gender based violence, NAPTIP has a place for trafficked women and girls.
Yes,
When like
the
for
trafficking
instance,
in persons, this thing act. Is there such a?
so trafficked persons now have a place where they can rest, and if government, I think government is in the process of also rehabilitating sexually abused persons too.
So you've been listening to the interventions, but we already said it. Okay, so what are the interventions that we have had over the years? How would you assess their successes?
Yeah, we have various laws that protect the rights of women and girls in Nigeria. So we are going to only mention a few because if we say we should discuss in depth some of these
Particularly those that are working in Benue State.
Okay, particularly those that are working in Benue State that have been
Maybe even
domesticated
In North
ones.
Central,
in North Central.
Sorry, not Central.
Using Benue as a
No,
springboard.
yes, as a springboard.
Yes,
Yeah, Benue is a springboard for
using
anything we're
Benue
talking.
as a springboard. We have the Benue State Child Rights Law of 2008, which aims to protect the rights of a child as to domestic violence against children, child trafficking, and all that.
sexual child abuse.
Sexual child abuse as well. Also, we have the VAP law, which is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law of Benue State, whose aim is to protect women as well as even the male folks in the society against any act of violence against their persons, both in private and public spaces. Then we also have I think CEDAW.
Yeah, well, CEDAW is still in the process of being domesticated. It's it's been there for so long, since 1979, but Nigeria only simply signed and ratified, but have not domesticated it. But the good thing about some of these laws is that most of them get implemented, whether or not the ideals behind them are injected into some of the laws that we see coming into operation today.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Like you have discrimination against. We talked extensively about how widows have been discriminated against, and then before the House of Assembly from the last administration has been a law to set up a commission for widows and to prevent harmful practices against widows.
Yes.
The sooner we see such laws come into place, the better.
The better.
Like most states in the Federation, particularly Rivers, have had a very strong base for women in terms of laws. Now, today, a woman can sue on any kind of inhibition of her rights, and that's a strength that should be given to every single woman in Nigeria, and how much more.
We also
The
have
North Central.
their constitutional rights.
Exactly. So
Of the Constitution,
under
which should-
fundamental human rights.
Yes, which must be upheld at every point in time.
Yes, 34, it provides for dignity of the person. In section 42, it also provides for freedom from discrimination, or the right to freedom from discrimination. So you can advance your rights using the Constitution. The good thing about the Constitution is that, or this entire thing about interventions, is that even if you feel that you do not have laws that will protect you on these other grounds or in certain areas, the Constitution is the ground norm.
Yes, it
You can
covers
always
every other
approach-
violation.
Yes, it covers everything. So you can, and the good thing about that chapter 4 is that it
Yeah.
says if you feel that your rights are
Are
about
violated, yes.
to or are being
Violated.
or will be violated.
Yes.
So it takes care of the before, the present, and the after. You
So
know,
which-
you don't even need anything. If you imagine or you think it, you can approach.
Which brings
the
me
courts.
to some of the laws that ought to be repealed, like Section 55 of the Penal Code, which allows a man to correct his wife where she goes wrong, either by beating or slapping. For Section 55 of the Penal Code ought to be repealed because it contradicts some aspects of the constitutional rights of women. How can you allow a husband and grant the force of law for a husband to beat up his wife? I don't understand. That is a
That's
contradiction.
physical abuse.
That's physical abuse.
Permission.
But
And
what I'm
permission, which gives a lot of room to some men to beat up
Yeah.
their children. They will say, after all, it's in the penal code. I have a right to
permission.
correct you. So that law should be repealed. And I'm sure there is a process ongoing for that repeal of that particular
there are
law.
advocacies going on. And I'm sure there's a bill before the House of Assembly.
Yes.
Not sure, not very sure now, but I believe there have been conversations about this. But we'll let you know as we go along. So how do we moving forward? How do we go about ensuring that this advocacy continues? What do we do? What as in our little corners? What do we do?
To continue drumming it until it gets to the right, the person who these rights are for, and the people that are implementers of this law.
Now you have to speak as a journalist now. What are you doing?
There should be more
There
emphasis
should be
on
more advocacy messages in all languages that are concerned, so that it get down to the root, to the people that
the
are really
grassroots,
concerned, the people that will be beneficiaries of this.
then education of the girl of women, girls should be
for them
emphasized,
to
should be brought to the forefront of our society. I mean, with education, you have solved half of the problems, because once you educate a human being, especially the women, you are educating a whole community. Because once a woman is educated, she's going to make sure her children are educated, her sisters and brothers are educated, because women are the backbone of societies. So with education of women, at least most of these problems will be less. Also, I believe there should be advocacy at the grassroots in our languages, like Dorothy said, in our indigenous languages, for them to understand actually their rights, their constitutional rights, so that it will not be violated.
Okay.
And I will simply say that is what Roots Media Initiative is all about. Roots Media Initiative is an NGO which we all belong in. And this is part of our offering to ensure that we enlighten our society about the issues as they affect them and how we can together work to resolve them. And that's how we say from talking to action. So we're not just here talking. There are things, initiatives that we're taking at the grassroots level, at the level of community, even in the urban centers, on advocacy, just to ensure that we push down the agenda for women's rights. Women's rights, as we have seen it today, is human rights. It's and they say if a woman feels free, then everybody is free because she's going to be she's involved at the level of family, she's involved at the level of society. Where a woman does not have what she deserves or what she needs, automatically the family has been denied, isn't it? So we're happy that we've been able to share this day with you. And here's simply wishing every woman out there a fantastic and rewarding International Women's Day. Until sometime later, when we come your way again, we're on Bridge Show saying thank you for watching. Thank you for being there. Thank you for staying tuned. Keep staying tuned. Don't forget to hit the like button, share this conversation, follow us on all our social media platforms, and join the conversations. Let's what is it at your own end? How is it in your little neck of the woods? How are things going there? Share your thoughts with us and let us know what it is all about so we can together move things forward. So let the advocacy continue at the level of civil society, at the level of the media, everybody who is involved in this entire process. We don't forget that we also have he for she's. We need more of them he for she's. So let them all come up so we can speak the same language and rid our society of anything that impinges the human rights of women. Thank you very much. So
I want to advise mothers that they should not only be bearing bouncing baby boys, let the girls too bounce.
let the girls bounce. Let the girls bounce.